So over the past year, we've been shooting a lot more vertical content than I would have originally thought we would. In regards to shooting that vertical content, we've ended up with a lot of costumes like this. Our companies need a lot of Christmas stuff this year, so Merry Christmas, even though it's only December 5.
Say Frohe Weihnachten to everyone.
That's Merry Christmas in German.
Say
For
it, babe. You learned
Frohe
it.
Nachten?
Weihnachten.
Frohe Weihnachten?
Yeah.
Frohe Weihnachten. There we go. All right. Let's get into this. Have you ever found yourself feeling super exhausted on a shoot from something called decision fatigue? This is a term that I came across today that very accurately described the past year of shoots I've been doing. So one of the issues I kept running into on these shoots was having to decide between shooting horizontal versus shooting vertical, because I knew I had to capture both, or I at least wanted to capture both, but I kept running into the problem of having to flip the camera every time and have to remember which was what I had to capture, and it got very exhausting. So in today's video, I want to take you guys a little bit behind the scenes and talk a little bit about one of our most recent shoots we just did for a client of ours, Colorcase. They're an awesome company based out in Las Vegas, Nevada, where they do colored custom Pelican cases. Literally the coolest thing ever. So as a filmmaker myself, this gets me very excited because I love all that kind of stuff, and I would suggest checking them out for sure. Anyway, I wanted to just quick talk a little bit about how we implemented this strategy of shooting strictly in horizontal to be cropping for vertical. Even though it was a vertical shoot, the deliverables were in vertical, as well as why it just made my life so much easier. So probably only about 2 weeks ago, I think, we went out to Las Vegas for 4 days and we're shooting some social media content for Colorcase out there. It was also our very first shoot with Caleb, who's now kind of my assistant / our intern PA at Outlands Media Group, who's been helping us on a ton of projects. Caleb has been awesome, just the hardest working person and a really good friend, and we've just had a ton of fun working with him. So it was great having him out here. It also took a lot of work off my plate as well too, so I was able to be a lot more intentional about the shots we were getting, just be more creative in general, and we're really stoked about how the content turned out that we were capturing. So when you're shooting a project that has vertical deliverables, you have to shoot vertical content very differently than how you would approach shooting strictly horizontal content. So like, for example, if I'm shooting a commercial that I know is going to be in horizontal, I'm going to be thinking about the framing that's just in the frame, or in 16:9 or 235 or whatever we're delivering at. That's what I'm thinking about. But when it comes to shooting vertical content, you either flip the camera and you literally shoot within the vertical, or you do what we did, and that's shooting horizontal but cropping for vertical. Before you go try and do this, there's a few things that you want to keep in mind when shooting vertical content and horizontal. The first is you need to have a camera that can film in 4K, because you're going to have to be able to crop in and out and just be able to reframe a little bit better, and shooting in 1080p just doesn't quite cut it when it comes to that kind of stuff. You want the ability and flexibility to be able to reframe your shot in post. That's the whole reason we're shooting in horizontal. The second is you need to have a good editing software like Premiere or DaVinci or Final Cut Pro or whatever you're using that's going to allow you to properly scale and reframe and cut and edit these shots in post-production. And then thirdly, there is one other thing I wanted to quick talk about with this that's really important and a huge benefit of shooting this way too, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. First, we're going to get into some specifics and technicalities of doing this. So as most of you probably know, in Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of these platforms that require vertical content, your aspect ratio flips. So it's no longer 16:9, it's 9:16, which means that the pixel ratio becomes 1080 by 1920. It's not actually 4K on these platforms. When you post it, it gets compressed down into 1080p. And so when you're shooting in 4K, the equivalent of that becomes 2160 by 3840 instead of 3840 by 2160. So taking all these things into mind, you're going to have to consider the fact that when you go to shoot this, you're going to want to frame either a little bit wider or shoot on a wider lens than what you actually think. Because the worst thing that would happen is that you go and shoot everything really close how you'd maybe shoot it in horizontal, and then you go to crop it and there's no way to get what you need in the frame because the vertical just squishes it so much, right? You see these lines on the side and there's like no room for anything. So in a sense, you have to frame with the edit in mind. Whenever I'm doing this, I always shoot just a little bit wider than what I'm thinking I actually need, because I know I'm gonna probably have to reframe it in post, and the last thing that I want is pulling it up and realizing that my edges are cropping the shot that I actually wanted, and I can't fit it all into the vertical frame. So one thing I do to make sure that I'm always getting everything I need in this vertical shot while shooting horizontal is I actually have a frame guide that shows me the vertical aspect ratio of what I'm going to be filming in. And so that way, whenever I'm shooting, I can just be looking in that and seeing that, okay, everything's in frame, I'm good to go, and I can just be watching that. Before I continue on saying that horizontal is the only way that you should be shooting vertical and you shouldn't be flipping your camera, I do want to talk a little bit about the fact that there are some scenarios where this could be helpful of actually shooting in vertical. I did actually film a whole commercial a couple years ago for a marketing agency that was like a full-blown like actors, people talking. We shot the whole thing in horizontal. We were shooting on the red Komodo and had a giant L bracket for it and everything. It was a pretty big deal doing this. And that was because the framing had to be very specific. This was 100% going to be vertical. They had no use for horizontal for this at all. It was only going to be run for social media ads. And so it just made sense to decide, okay, we're just going to frame up the camera vertically because it was sitting on sticks for almost all of the shots. I don't think we did a single handheld one. And then that way it was just already in vertical anyways for the post team to go and cut it all together. So the exception I would say with this is when you know for a fact that there just won't be any need for horizontal or just recropping or anything like that, or you have to get your framing very exact, like shooting a little narrative piece or narrative commercial or something like that. For this particular shoot, we're using the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, and I had the Atomos Ninja V monitor, which does in the new firmware update have the ability to show you the frame guides of like a 9:16 vertical crop. But the problem is in order to do that, you have to have one of the Atomos SSDs to do the firmware update. And I don't have that, and I wasn't about to go spend all that money on an Angelbird SSD to do this. So the next best solution was actually to just put the frame guides in the camera itself and just make sure that they were showing up on the monitor output in my camera. So if you run into this issue, if you're trying to do this and you have this particular monitor that I have, this is a way that I found around it that worked really well. One of the biggest things I love about just shooting horizontal in general and not flipping the camera to shoot vertical, like getting L brackets and all those sorts of things, is just taking in the factor of the ergonomics of the camera. Video production cameras are designed to be operated in a horizontal format. It's just the way the ergonomics are built. It's where the buttons are. They're not designed to shoot vertical. Not saying that you can't, but it's gonna make things a lot easier if you can just hold your camera how you'd normally hold it when you're shooting anything else and just be looking at some proper frame guides on your screen to be able to do that. And you wanna make things the easiest as possible so that you can just focus on being creative and getting the shots that you actually want to get. All right, so here we are. This is the last most important thing that I wanted to point out on the discussion of shooting vertical video, because shooting horizontal means you now have more variety in the types of services and different cuts you can offer your clients. So for example, on that 2-day shoot that we just finished up with one of our clients out in Las Vegas, Color Case, we were able to film not only just vertical content because it was a social media content shoot, getting all of the footage for reels and things that we needed for the next couple months before we go out again and shoot. But we were also able to, at the exact same time, have a ton of footage in horizontal that we can then use to cut all sorts of different promos, product overview videos, brand videos, videos for their website. And it does two things, which are really cool. The first, it gives our clients more bang for their buck, because basically they don't have to schedule more and more days for us to shoot all of this stuff for them. We can get two things in one. And then two, it creates more work for us, which is in a good sense. It creates more opportunities for us to be able to say, hey, you know, we actually got a lot of really good footage on this one. If you'd like for us to do a brand video, or you'd like for us to help you more, we have the footage to do that. Just being able to repurpose it, and not just vertical platforms, but also horizontal, is a huge upsell, and just a huge way that we can help serve our clients best. The other thing is that it's what I like to call future-proof. There's no complete confirmation that vertical video will stick around for the next 5 to 10 years. I think it will. I don't think it's going to be going away anytime soon, but you just never know. And so one of the nice things is that you have all this horizontal stuff that you can use for your reels, for your own promotional needs, showing what your company can do, and it's not just stuck in this vertical thing where it has one use. And who knows, horizontal video has been around forever, so maybe it will come back more. I don't see theaters ever going vertical, so I don't know. All right, but that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found this information to be valuable, consider hitting that subscribe button, and I'd love to hear from you too. Comment below your thoughts on horizontal versus vertical video and whether you should be shooting in horizontal and then cropping for vertical or shooting vertical just as is. Everyone's experience is different, and so I'm always open to hearing other opinions and other filmmakers' experiences in these situations. As always, feel free to go check out what we're doing over on Instagram at Outlands Media, and I will see you guys in the next one.